What's up, man?
It's a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you.
I like that because we've had these little rendezvous, and I like that you're here 3 hours early for me. Afraid that maybe you'd be a little late, but remember that time a couple years you were a little late in traffic.
Oh my God, yeah. The running joke is that I'm going to be late for my own funeral, so
You won't be.
Well, yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
unfortunate but true.
Yeah.
But first of all, it was good to see you.
Great seeing you too, man.
And a belated happy birthday.
Oh,
Number
thank
50.
you.
Number 50.
Do we have to go through this? I'm going to start counting backwards. Next year, I'll be 49 again.
You've done a good job at that. So let me jump right into it because it really does amaze me. We'll get to the Yankee stuff in a minute because there's nothing like Yankee Red Sox. And regardless of whatever the situation may be, Red Sox it's always a good team to beat on a Thursday night. But talk to me about what's going on with your music career and how that's going. And has it met your expectations? Has it gone to where you thought?
Wow. Music is great. Music is great. For all people that don't know, I just went back to school about 2.5 years ago. I graduated from the Manhattan School of Music with a degree in jazz performance out of that. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. So I'm joining the ranks of the unemployed musicians in the city. That can be hired, take checks, credit cards.
Got your hat in your hand, guitar in the subway station. But
yeah,
it's really, you're underselling yourself. But for all you really weren't going to sit back and rest on your laurels of what you did, which was pretty good, I would say, to say the least. But you basically reset, refired, because you're doing your concert, you're touring around the country.
Yes, we're touring around the country, utilizing. I got to give a lot of credit to my man to my right here, Mr.
Steve Fortunato.
He has found a way of making my value even higher, because as an entertainer, I come with this background of sports, and the Yankees and all that tradition. And, as a sports person, being invited to play and do all these things, corporate things and charity things, I come with this angle of music and art, that sort of sets me apart. And Steve has been able to realize that, and it puts me in a very unique position, and hopefully a very profitable one. It has been. He's out there doing his best, and he is my right and left guy. So.
Well, it is amazing what you've developed and the brand development. By the way, I don't know if we're live on Facebook. If you have a question for Bernie, we'll take some of your questions live on Facebook. Chime in. We'll get you involved. That's the world we're living in. Although there's nothing that beats going to Yankee Stadium, sitting in premium seats. There's nothing better than that. Trust me on that. And that's the second story I'm telling my wife, and I'm sticking to it. But is anybody you've jammed with? Because I know every now and then I'll see something on Facebook, or I'll be somewhere, and all of a sudden you're jamming with some pretty cool people. Anybody you've jammed with recently, or that you want to jam with that's kind of...
I've had a great opportunity to do this great things and great events. For instance, I was, I think it was last year, I had this great opportunity to be part of the house band that was hosting the Little Kids Rock annual gala event. And we were backing up Kev Mo, Bonnie Raitt, Elvis Costello, and I was in the house band. He's playing guitars like, "He's my hero!" And it was great. And meeting and knowing and having an opportunity to play with all these people is so cool, because they're as excited to meet me as a former Yankee as I am excited to meet them as my musical heroes and all these great entertainers. So it's there's a lot of respect, and they know that I'm not going out there kind of resting on my laurels thinking that I'm just going to show up and hack a couple of chords and it'll be great. I know that they have taken a lot of time and effort working on their craft, and the least that I can do is just put in my work as well, so I can gain their respect as far as being a musician, a credible musician, and that's what I've been trying to do in the last couple of years.
How does this even happen? Where does it get started? What was the aha moment for you that gets you going? Because it's one thing to be the center field for the New York Yankees, and on the level you did it, but now you're like, you're getting there on a world class musician. How does that get started?
It all comes from the same source. I think a lot of the things that I learned about being a professional baseball player, especially playing in the major leagues here in New York with the Yankees, I have taken into my training, and how to become a not a good musician, but as good as a musician as I can be. And there's two different things. You work hard and you put your work in, but then it's a matter of just having an awareness of what's happening in the music industry, what kind of direction I want to take my song and my voice, and playing with different genres and different musicians. A couple of years ago I was playing with Dave Brubeck's son. He was like an iconic jazz figure, right? I'm playing Take 5 with him, and as a tribute to his father. The next day, I'm in Long Island playing We're Not Gonna Take It with Twisted Sister, and I was just rocking it, and I was like, yeah. To me, it's a matter of like learning a language, and if you learn a language well enough, you are able to speak it eloquently, and to be engaging, and to draw people in, and to be inviting, and to be entertaining, and to have people come out of the whatever that you're doing and said, I'll come back and see this guy again. I like what he's at. I like where he's going with this. And it just comes out of the same source, so practicing and putting your work in and not taking any shortcuts. And, hopefully, God will give you enough life in one lifetime to, pursue both things, at the highest possible level that I can get.
It's never too late to be the person you want to be.
Absolutely.
Right? Here. Have you jammed here? Were you jamming in the old stadium? Like, because you hear rumors about, early in the afternoon or pregame, you, Paul O'Neill. Tell me what the story is with that.
They were all true.
Really?
They were all true. Yeah, 1993.
So like 10 minutes while we're like,
1993, Paul O'Neill came into the team, right? And we had an old drum set that was left in the stadium by Ron Guidry. He was a drummer as well. I think Tom set him up with 2 drum sets, and he left one in the stadium. He never picked him up. Our grounds crew manager, Cunningham, he used to play, in the paint room of the old Yankee Stadium. And Paul, when he came in 1993, he started going to the paint room and playing drums as well. And one of those days, I started walking from the clubhouse into the batting cages. And you have to walk
back in those days. Just for reference, not a convenient. He's being polite. The paint room dungeon, and you're walking. These are these small quirky little rooms
and everything you can imagine. And I hear. And I open the door. It's Paul jamming there. It's like, dude, I didn't know you played. And it's like, who do you like? He said, well, I'm a Mellencamp kind of Rolling Stones kind of guy, classic rock. And I said, I have a guitar. You mind if I bring it? I brought my guitar from the clubhouse, a little Stratocaster that I had, and we started jamming there, and it became a thing. Like rain delays, after batting practice, before games. It's like, let's go. We would like looking at each other. It's like, let's go. You got 10 minutes? Yeah, we got 10 minutes. So, yeah, it became a really, really cool thing. And then we started bringing people in. We brought like Richie Sambora and Jack Scarangella, all these like great old school blues rock players. We had the best jamming sessions that nobody ever knew about them. No, yeah, it was awesome.
Wow, because when you talk to Mariano and some of the other players that have been here, they always say like you're almost sleeping 5 minutes before the game, and they got to wake you up and. Yeah, and how they're like, there were 2 Bernies, and they woke you up. They didn't know which Bernie you were going to get. What do you say to that?
That's sort of true, I guess. But my story is that I was visualizing. I wasn't sleeping. I was visualizing. I was putting the game back in slow motion and seeing myself hitting the ball out of the park, running the bases in slow motion and seeing the fans, going like, getting all that positive reinforcement in my head, as I'm closing my eyes, getting ready for the game. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Some people may think, he was napping, but I wasn't doing that.
Stealing my line. Your career, did it end too soon, or any regrets? Or
yeah, absolutely did. Are you kidding me? I could have played for 10 more years. In my mind, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think anybody would say that, they played as long as unless you had to deal with a lot of pain. Like Paul in his last couple of years, he said, I'm ready to go, man. This is just getting to the stadium 3 hours before the game just to get ready to play, and then staying 2 hours after the game so I could get ready to play the next day. It becomes, you start dealing with that pain and you just get tired of it. No.
What was your excuse, though?
Music.
Oh.
The music bug was, just pulling me towards, and at that point, I had a lot of things going on with my family, and Cash didn't seem to, have, any plans for me, and so I was like, well, you know what, I really don't have anything else to prove here, and I have a lot to prove, and it's very exciting, this new and exciting music world that I'm going to get into. I don't think I'm going to be that good, but I'm just going to give it my all, and I just went full time, and that's where I am today.
You had a rough start, though.
I did have it.
I mean, I'm being kind, but I mean, if your name wasn't mentioned on a day, they basically get traded.
Yeah,
right at the beginning. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that's why
we were running around. We were running around, and if we can get you $1,000, we had done well that day. Yep. It was you and Kevin Moss or Larry Ritz was the baby bombers, remember? And I mean, we couldn't book you because there was the trade rumors.
Yeah,
is that now was that tough on you at the beginning, and how'd you get through that?
It wasn't really tough because I didn't know any better. I knew that was what it was about. I mean, you play well, you stay with the team. You don't play as well, you're going to be traded or something's going to happen. I just was very lucky and blessed to have people within the organization that believed in me. Guys like Gene Michael, guys like Buck Showalter.
Who was your biggest fan there? Who was?
I think it was Gene Michael.
I think so too.
Yeah, because he was the one that George, Mr. Steinbrenner, very impatient with his young players, and in 91, 92, 93, he was like, well, this guy's there, he's not really doing it. What can we do with this young player? And Gene Michael was the one that told him, we're trying to trade him. We are really, but nobody wants him. We're stuck with him. We're stuck.
He was not telling the truth, though.
Yeah, and, I guess, he probably saw in me something that I didn't see myself at that point, and let me just play through my growing pains. And at that time, it wasn't, the Yankees were always a good team, but they didn't have the expectations that it was put on the Yankees after 96, 97, 99, 98, 99, all those years. Then it became the Yankees are either going to go to the World Series or it's a terrible season for them. But before that, it was like, well, we're in the middle of the road team, whole bunch of veterans. We are rebuilding, and are we going to give these guys an opportunity to do what they can do, to see what they can do before we trade them? And I was luckily one of them.
You're just in the Yankee locker room, hanging out. What do you feel? What are you feeling in there? What kind of group do you sense? You've been around a lot of winning.
Yeah,
a lot of losing.
Yeah,
right. Early in your career, what's the sense in there?
Oh, they're very committed. I think they are really thinking about what this next couple of weeks are how they're gonna unfold. I know that they have in their mind that there's it doesn't really matter how you get in the big dance. Talking about the postseason, there's in the last few years a couple of teams that have come out and win World Series. Coming out of that wild card situation. So it doesn't really matter how you get there. Is getting there, and then everybody starts on zero. And it's basically a new season. So all these, people that are having, sort of questionable years and then, may feel a little down on themselves. I just keep telling them, dude, you may have a, so-so year, but the Yankees are not about the regular season. The Yankees are about the postseason. And if you start and you get hot, starting the playoffs, nobody's going to remember, what happened in the regular season. So, I think they have that in their minds, and I think they're working towards staying healthy and finishing strong this, couple of weeks until they, hopefully get an opportunity to play in the big dance.
Last question before we take some questions. The mindset. You got 10 games left. I don't want to say meaningless, but kind of, obviously going to be very hard to catch Boston, but What are you? You know, you got to still protect your wild card position, not go on the road. But what's the mindset? What are you? You know, you in this position. What are they? What are you working on as a team individually?
I think they're trying to win every game that they can. It's a matter of staying healthy, making an assessment. Each and every player has to make an assessment, and where are they, you know, in the season, putting their egos aside before they come into the clubhouse, and just at this point, it's not about your individual season. It's about just pulling together to get an opportunity to make history.
Back in '98, when you had that great record, you were rolling along. How hard is it for Boston, who's been rolling along? They're so far ahead. Hard for them to keep their focus?
I think, you know, we had a little bit of a stretch back in '98, you know, the last maybe week or so, that we were playing so bad that they didn't know, you know, what kind of team they were going to get in the postseason. And I think, you know, it takes a little bit of time to go into this slide and then kind of regroup and say, well, we are a good team, and we have proven it. We have proven that we are a good team during the course of the season, and let's see if we can just take it. We can take it to the next level. But they're going to have their work cut out for them because, you know, obviously, you know, a lot of teams are gunning for them, and, you know, obviously the Yankees included, and I wouldn't count them out. I wouldn't count the Yankees out. I think they have a very good chance,
Spoken like a true Yankee.
Exactly. Yeah.
No sense, no reason not to be biased. And do it in a proud,
Of course.
boisterous way.
Too much tradition here,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
That's right.
But it could be really exciting these next few weeks.
It
We'll do
will.
some questions from the audience, and we'll take a couple Facebook questions as well.
First question's right over here.
Okay.
Hi, Bernie.
Hello.
Thanks for taking the time to spend with us this evening.
Absolutely pleasure.
Just had a question. Do you still ride Harleys?
No, I ride Ducatis and BMWs now.
The reason why I asked, I don't know if you recall back in
All right. Oh, wow, that's great. And I was probably wearing a full face helmet or something. As soon as I took it off, it was like, oh, boy. I certainly appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Next question's right here.
I don't know if you want to talk about, I don't know how to say it, idiopathic, your father's
Pulmonary
disease?
fibrosis, yes, of course, yeah. That was the disease. It's IPF, short for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. The disease that took my dad's life away in 2001. And I've been working for the last 2 years with Boehringer Ingelheim, this pharmaceutical company out of Germany, raising awareness about the disease. We have this campaign called Breathless. We have a website, breathlessipf.com. And I've been, sort of having this opportunity to process all the grieving that I did not do when my dad died in 2001. I was in the middle of my season playing here. I've said my goodbyes to him and just kind of spent a lot of time with him the winter prior to that season. But you're never ready for news like that. So when he passed away, I rushed down to Puerto Rico, had him, whole funeral and all cremated and all that. But then I sort of, put it in a shelved because I knew that I needed to take care of other things here. And then just the years just kept piling up. Obviously your brain is going to process all that information because I used to wake up like sobbing like crazy in the middle of the night for no reason at all. I just wake up and in the middle of a dream, I was crying in the middle of the dream, and I would wake up and I'm not crying. It's like, what happened here? And then I would wake up crying too, and then I would wake up crying in real life. And it's like, wow, my brain must be going through some like really crazy things. But with that said, it took about 2 years ago when this company approached me to do this kind of work that everything started coming back to me. All this, like the good times, the bad times, when he was sick, when he was, happy, all the things that had to do with me processing the grieving of my father, he just came back. And, this opportunity has given me a chance to process all of that. And I'm forever grateful to them.
How does that disease work?
It is scarring of the lung tissue, right? So idiopathic means that they don't know the source. They don't know what causes it. But what happens is that, your lungs start scarring. You create all these scarring tissue that doesn't let you breathe, and it's a progressive, ultimately terminal disease. So you are kind of going and feel like you're drowning little by little. It took my dad basically about 3 years, and it was like this really long, crazy, bad process in which every day you feel like you're going. We have about 300,000 people living with IPF in the United States. And about 40,000 people die every year from this disease. It's 4 times more common than ALS. Well, it's not as common knowledgeable-wise, but the numbers, it's more. There are more cases than this than there are of ALS.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, I could keep talking about it, but I know we don't have enough time. But thank you so much for mentioning it.
Next question's right here.
Thanks for being here. You're such an iconic hero to people old and young. I was wondering who among young people are your heroes in both music and in sports?
Wow, that's a really cool question, though. I don't know. I think in music, if you haven't gotten an opportunity to check this young kid named Joey Alexander, yeah, it has really made me question my efforts in being a musician. For anybody that doesn't know, he's a tremendous, incredible jazz piano player that sort of taught himself how to play from Jakarta, right? And if you haven't gotten an opportunity to check him out, you got to do it. The other guy is Jacob Collier. You got to check him out. He's also a multi-instrumentalist, and he's been like doing crazy things on the internet. Making arrangements of all these pop tunes. That you know about a thing, and isn't she lovely? He has all these like multimedia voices, and you got to check him out. I don't know. I think that's enough time.
On the athlete side. Who was your idol growing up, by the way? Did you have one?
Roberto Clemente. Clemente was my idol. Even though I never saw him play, I have to say that because I was 4 years old when when the accident happened. But I got to meet him through his family extensively, through his sons, his widow, Vera, and for basically all the stories that I've heard from former players. Manny Sanguillén is like an advocate of Roberto Clemente.
Catcher for the Pirates.
It's the person that epitomizes everything that a player, especially a Latin player, should be. The way that he was used, his popularity and celebrity as a platform to be a champion for these players and for all these people. It was just something that I always kept in my mind, and it was really important to me as a player.
Next question's right here.
Well, Bernie, thank you for being a wonderful Yankee, for being so clutch when you had to be. Your records, I think, will stand for all time, and I think you belong in the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And I
think about that though a little bit.
I think it's going to be unanimous. Okay, and 21 for Clemente should be retired as well.
I agree with
throughout
that.
Baseball.
I agree.
You stole my thunder on that. We love you, Bernie.
Thank you so much.
Your
sir.
music is great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, right here.
Bernie, again, thanks for everything you did. You were quite important to all the teams in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and yet there isn't a core 5. Any thoughts on why it's a core 4 and not a core 5?
I think the opinion is that if they were part of the championship team in 2009 and I was not, and I think that's probably the main reason why guys like maybe Michael Kay and people like that would say, well, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference there. But just to be included in the conversation is great, and the fact that they always talk about the core 4. And they always mention my name. They don't say their names. They say just core 4, and they say, well, what about Bernie? So I'm being mentioned in the conversation, and to me that is quite an honor. And other than that, it's nothing that I really can control. So I just let it happen. And
As an
just be
FYI, Bernie, at Steiner, we look at the Fab Five, and we're making a lot of money from that. Yeah, we've gone. I think we talked about that. We've talked about that. Yeah, we readdressed it because they denounced the Fab Five in Michigan anyway. You know, that's all a train wreck, right? Yeah. And this is real, so we're just running with it.
Hey, I'll take it.
You know, and why not? And you know, I think it's a blessing too. You know, to have your number retired, being out in that's amazing. That speaks for itself.
Having my number retired was such a great honor. That's no small feat. I think, you know, when I was playing in the little leagues, you know, I was an 8, 9, 10-year-old. I had my father taking me to the fields and hit endless afternoons of ground balls and fly balls. I would have never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I would have an opportunity to not only play for the Yankees, but have my number retired with this organization. It's just truly a dream come true for me, and such an honor, and you know, very proud of that.
2000 World Series, Mariano pitches, Piazza hits that shot. What was going on in your mind during that pitch?
2000, yeah.
And I thought I said 2000, didn't I? 2000, yeah, Subway Series, Shea Stadium.
I thought the ball was
a lot of wind blowing.
Yeah, I thought the ball was gone.
Right?
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah, I seen that because you, as an outfielder, you get to see, you know, especially playing center, you get to see body language and reactions from, you know, both the pitcher and the hitter. And when Mariano threw that ball and he followed through, he had this sort of reaction that he made when Piazza hit the ball, and I haven't seen him make that reaction in a long time. He only reacts like that when somebody hits him really hard. It's like something like that, you know, like he's like bracing himself or something. And when Piazza hit that ball, he did that thing, and I was like, "Whoa, this ball was hit hard." The first thing in my mind, get to the wall. As a professional outfielder, you get taught. You go to the place the ball you think is going to be, and then you make your adjustment from there. So I just said, no ifs, buts, nothing. This ball is going to be over my head. And I just kind of turned around and started running. About halfway between where I was and the fence, I start thinking, well, maybe I should take a look at this ball to see where it is. So I was just kind of like peeking out, and I was like, huh, this might stay. So the ball just kept dying, and all of a sudden I'm just, you know, around it, and I'm like right, you know, underneath it. And the next thought was that, don't drop it, man. Don't drop this.
I think about that game just because that series was just a lot closer than really people made out to.
All
a
the
couple
games
little
were close.
things, and then all of a sudden
games.
you're in some nail biter game 7 kind of thing.
That is true.
Right? That's true, right? And boy, that would have been a nightmare to wake those people
Yeah,
up.
the coolest thing about that series was carrying Joe Torre in our shoulders, and he just having him breaking down and sobbing, you know, and throwing kisses to his wife in the stands, and there was a photographer that took that moment and crystallized it in the picture. You should have that picture somewhere. So he signed one of those for me, and to all those guys, and he said, "Thank you, Bernie. You've carried me all these years." And he said that I think probably for every player that was, you know, in that picture. That was a great thing.
He always had a lot of gratitude for, you know, the players that, you know, put out their all consistently.
Of course,
he respected that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't do it on your own, especially in this game.
Yeah. I remember, by the way, having Joe Torre, just show how intense that series was. We thought it was a good idea to have both managers come up to the office to sign autographs before the series started at the same time. So we're in the office. We didn't think it would be a big deal. It'd be kind of cool, good photo shot, and you can cut the air with a scissor. It did not go well. It was not. I mean, I was like, wow, man, this is
two very intense people.
Not a good idea.
Especially, I mean, if it was another team, you know, another city, perhaps. You're playing in this guy's neighborhood, man. There's a lot of bragging rights there, and Joe could be really intense. You know, I think, you know,
he hit it well.
As successful as he has been as a manager and a baseball person, I think he definitely missed his call. He probably would have been the best poker player that ever lived, because you couldn't tell if he was mad, happy, sad, you know, with his face. You know, and that was great, you know, to see a guy that he could have been, you know, trying to curse you out, but he still, said, well, you go out there and do your thing. There was maybe a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times where I really saw him yelling in a meeting when he was really, really upset. And you did not want to get into Joe's bad side. You did not want to do that. But,
He had the quick answer always, too. If you were in a thing with him, he'd give you like just a 2-word answer that would make 100% sense. Jeter was like trying to stretch a double into a triple, and he gets thrown out. I mean, out. And he goes back to the bench, and he's like, I think I was safe. Well, if you were safe, you'd be on third base now, wouldn't you? He turns around.
Exactly.
He always had the quick.
Yeah.
But between him and Zimmer, that's a lot of experience.
Oh, my God.
Right?
No nonsense people, man.
You're
And
not
they
missing
really,
anything with those two.
No. He did rely on Don and his expertise to a lot of the, on the game, like during the game decisions. But both of them, I mean, they didn't leave a lot of things to
You had
chance.
2 managers, really, right?
Yeah.
All intents and purposes.
They were great.
Oh, we're back there.
Bernie, what? A couple quick questions. What's your prediction for the game tonight?
What? The Yankees are going to win.
Yeah,
We're sleeping.
Yeah!
We're sleeping.
They're sleeping because this is a crucial game. What was it? Because we got some young men here. You got people watching on Facebook. When you were a young man, when you're just little Bernie, when was the time where you said, I'm gonna be great? And when was the time? Who was the person that gave you that ability to be like, I'm gonna play in the pros someday? Because that's a lot of people need that. I just wondered how old you were. When was the time? When was the place? You said, I'm gonna be in the major leagues. I'm gonna play for the Yanks.
Wow. You got me thinking about that question. I think that in all my years of playing baseball, when I first started, to me, it was about making connections and how to relate myself to life itself. I mean, there's a lot of discrepancy now with, the way that kids are taught about, learning the game. It's like you're breeding them to be major leaguers. Back when I was playing in the little leagues, they were teaching me life lessons. They utilized the sport to say, well, you strike out now, but you'll get them next time. You made a mistake, but you're going to redeem yourself. Always learn from your mistakes. Always have this positive attitude. The game is so much about failure that you have to keep a positive and uplifting attitude about it. But this is all things that you learn in life. So to me, the experience of me playing baseball in the little leagues was not about being a major leaguer and to play with the Yankees. This is about surviving, basically, and learning a lot of things that I was able to utilize in my life as an adult. I didn't really start thinking seriously about being with the Yankees up until my second year in professional baseball. I signed as a senior in high school, 17, and then I went into the minor leagues thinking, wow, this is such a cool thing. I don't know what's going to happen about this, but I think it's going to be a really cool experience. In my second year, I turned a switch hitter, and then I started seeing the possibilities about the big picture. It's like, well, you may have a chance to play with this team. Better get your stuff together, start working, even then, I thought, well, maybe not with the Yankees, because the Yankees had such great players in the big leagues at that point. They had Gary Ward, Claudell Washington. I think Dave Winfield was playing there. But outfielders, I didn't really see an entry point. And in the minor leagues, in AAA, they had Kevin Moss and they had Roberto Kelly and Vic Mata and all these people. And I was like, I'm probably going to be traded somewhere. But I started seeing the big picture and say, if you want to make it to the big leagues, you're going to have to have a plan of action. And what is going to be your plan of action?
Hours and hours and hours, or lifting weights? Fly balls for hours, or
it's everything. But most importantly is your attitude about the whole thing. Because the work is a given. Everybody in the minor leagues are going to work the rear ends off. Everybody's going to have to go through the same routine. So what is it that is going to make you different than all of them? So you have to do two things. You got to have uncanny, great born ability, which nobody really has, you know, or you're going to have to outwork your opposition and make them look at you saying, this guy, you know, may not have the instincts to run bases or may not have the arm, but look how hard is he working. Look how, you know, how great he deals with adversity. He doesn't make any excuses. He plays hard all the time, you know, and it's not about himself. It's about the team, and all these qualities that people start seeing in you are the ones that make people look at you and say, well, this is a guy that he may not be the best right now, but I want him on my team. And then you start developing the clutch things about, you know, visualizing and being, you know, the more you are in situations under pressure, the more you're able to handle it. And it becomes something that you want to be in those situations. It's like, yeah, bases loaded, game on the line, or I'm playing outfield, the bases loaded, or whatever, the game's on the, they give me a line drive or whatever. I want to be out there making that
So you
play.
had a moment where you got confident in your ability
Yes.
or confident in your strategy?
Confident in my ability to be persistent pursuing that dream, because I knew I had the gift, which was my physical ability. But that didn't make me any different from any other guy in the minor leagues. Everybody could throw the ball, everybody could run, because they were signed and they were the best players in their teams, in their cities, in their towns. And everybody came to that place and said, I mean, I'm the best in my town, I'm the best in my city, I'm the best in my college. So what's going to make me different than this dude that came from the same situation? And to me, it was just attitude, being humble, adjusting, having the ability to make adjustments, and just flat out outworking the opposition on your competition.
Put that in a bottle and sell it. That's true, though. Wow. Yep, right here.
Hi, Bernie. I always wanted to ask a switch hitter this. Would you ever consider not doing the lefty righty matchup against a pitcher? Like, say, if, you know, you were in a really bad slump hitting lefty or something, or, you know, thinking about how a particular pitcher throws. I was curious about that.
No, I never did. I put so much work into my left side. You have to realize that I started being a switch hitter in my second year professional ball. I was already behind. So I worked so hard on my left side and trying to make it as equal as I could to my right side that it became part of my DNA as a player. The only person that I faced from the right side, and he was a right-hander, was Tim Wakefield. Just because he was a knuckleball and didn't really matter where I always wanted to change like size to try to mess with his head, but the situation never came. Like, call time, like, dude, time out. Can I just say change? But it never came.
You can't do that though, right?
Yeah, you can actually. I think you're allowed to do it once in your at bat, as far as I understand the rules. But yeah, I never really thought of it because from a player standpoint, from a hitter standpoint, it's a lot easier to see the arm angle of the person that is pitching in the opposite side.
Matt from Facebook says, is there an opponent that you actually feared, a pitcher that you feared? And who's the pitcher you most respected?
I respected Pedro Martinez a lot. I never feared anybody, though.
Fear that he was going to hit you, or fear that he was hard to hit?
No, you cannot have fear being hit by the pitch if you're hitting, because that basically you're done. Because if you're thinking about being hit, your mind is not where it needs to be, and you're taught not to fear anybody. You respect them, and that makes you work harder, because you know that you have to be at the top of your game to face these types of pitchers.
So, best pitcher you ever saw, Pedro?
Maybe not the best that I ever saw, but the toughest that I had to face. I think it's right up there with the toughest pitchers and the best that I've ever saw. But for me, he was just incredibly difficult to hit. And it's funny thing that we face each other, I don't know however many times we face each other in the big leagues, and I had like no recourse. I had to get in his head at some point, so I was like, I would call time out and I just like fake that I have this like thing in my eye and this and that. Just as soon as he was gonna do his wind up, it's like time out. It's like he would get pissed. I'm sorry, he would get very mad, and he would like yell at me from the mound and say, if you step out of the mound, if you step out of the batter's box again, I'm going to hit you. And then I'll say, well, bring it on. And the broadcasters were out there saying, well, you know, the two Latin players, you know, one from Dominican Republic, they're almost like neighbors, you know, they have this great camaraderie between them. Look at them talking on the field. And we're like bickering, he looks like about to come into punches.
The problem with Pedro is that he would hit you. And
He would hit me.
And that's
Yes.
what I was going to say. And we've had pitchers up here say that they have hit batters purposely, that got underneath their skin. And I just recall Pedro hitting a lot of our guys.
Well,
Right?
and
Soriano,
yeah, of course.
Cheater in the hospital, first inning.
Back in the day, players expected to be hit.
Oh, okay.
You know, you hit a home run back in, you know, Yotor could tell you about these things. You know, you had, you know, guys like Bob Gibson. You know, even if you took a hack and he's like almost fell out of your shoes, you know, swinging, the next pitch was going to be right at you. You say you cannot be this comfortable in the batter's box. But yeah, it was just a different game.
Bernie, you wore number 51. I'm sure you still have family in Puerto Rico. What can we do? Is there anything, like, what's going on there right now? I don't hear anything anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm yet to find the relationship between the number 51 and Puerto Rico.
What was with...
Somebody told me that you wore it because you wanted Puerto Rico to be the 51st.
Oh, wow. That is completely false. Yeah.
We're here to straighten out those kind of myths.
Yes.
That's why we have these pregame legends events.
It became a thing because I guess, you know, politically speaking, it was kind of a thing that made sense, but it could be farther from the truth. The truth about the 51 was a former equipment manager named Nick Piori. When I first came into the big leagues, and it seems like that I was going to stay, Nick chose a number for me, and he said, "You're going to wear 51 because you reminded me of Willie McGee." If you remember Willie McGee,
Fast.
You can not see the
St. Louis Cardinals.
you cannot see the.
It could have been Vince Coleman.
It could have been Vince Coleman, yeah, too.
That would have been
But
good.
that's the story. He said, "Well, young guy, you're going to wear this uniform, and you are going to like it." And I said, "Yes, sir."
There was
Thank
another
you so
number
much.
available, though, at that time, right?
Well, the story goes that after a couple of years in '95, Buck Showalter was the manager, and then he said to me, "Bernie, come here. You know, it has come to my attention that number 6 has become available. Number 6. Do you want to change your uniform number?" And I talked it over with a lot of people, and I said, "Wow, you're successful with 51. Just keep 51, and you know, not do it." And then I told Buck, "No, I'm just going to stay with 51. But I could have number 6, man. Number 6.
Probably not a good idea, Buck showing off that number. Maybe some other people had their eyes on it.
Well, Joe actually ended up
Yeah.
getting that number and retiring number 6. So there's no single-digit numbers in there.
You could have had the last single digit.
Could have had number 6, man.
You did pretty good with 5 plus 1. That's 6.
That is. Yeah.
Just saying.
Bernie, thank you again for being here. Growing up, you and Paul O'Neill were my two absolute favorites, still are to this day.
Thank you so much.
I used to model my tantrums after Paul O'Neill and Little League.
Oh,
They're pretty good too. How did
What, the water cooler and all?
Oh, everything, Gatorade, you name it. It was,
Wow.
So you and the rest of the team, how did you deal with Paul O'Neill's tantrums?
we didn't.
At all? You just let him ride him out.
You know why? Because Paul actually was a great example of how to be intense. He had no filter, but he was always so hard on himself that it made everybody say, you know what, I should pay a little bit more attention to this. Because, I mean, I was a guy that would say, all right, you fail now, but you know, hopefully you'll get an opportunity to sort of redeem yourself. Paul would have a game that he would hit 2 doubles and a home run, 3 at-bats. The 4th at-bat, he will strike out, and he was like he struck out the 4 times before, saying not giving anything away and just having that attitude was like, dude, you know, he has a reason, man. Every at-bat that you have in the big leagues is documented forever. I mean, you take a lot of them. There's like 500 of those, you know, a year, but each and every one of those, they count. So you are supposed to not give anything up. And that was his attitude. And he was 24/7 like that on the field. after the field and his like free time and before and after the game, you can see a guy more passive than Paul O'Neill.
You guys were jamming.
We were jamming, but he was like very quiet. He was like, you know, in his locker, not doing really much. The game would turn on and he would turn into Sybil. But I admired that from him, you know. He wasn't really showing any players off. He wasn't really, you know, he was just.
You admired him, but you were
himself.
the opposite.
I was
mean,
the
you
complete
could never
opposite,
tell if you
yeah.
just hit a home run or you just struck out. You just kind of
man.
walked away with a blank stare. And that's because you don't want to show the competition?
Well,
or?
that was a cool thing because I was always thinking about the next moment. Like whatever I did before had already passed. In baseball, the cool thing about the game is that, you know, if you do bad, you always have another chance to redeem yourself. If you do good, you still have a good chance to prove that you can, you know, do more good. So what that does to you is that you don't dwell on your at-bats. You don't dwell on the games. You become a forward thinking in the way that even if it was great or if it was just terrible, you take that opportunity, you learn from it, and then just discard it, and then move over to the next thing. And in baseball, there's a lot of next things that happen in 162 games. You don't have time to dwell on what happened like a week ago. So yeah, I never really paid too much attention of what, you know, the things that I did. You know, I was always thinking forward.
This will be our last question.
Hi, I have just a real quick comment and one question. So comment is, I just wanted to share, I'm very familiar with the charitable foundation work that you do and giving back to the community. And I just wanted to say thank you because that's such great role modeling to our young people who right now don't have that sense of urgency in giving back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my question is, do you think we'll ever see a woman play in Major League Baseball?
I do not know. I would like to see one.
There's some really good women playing softball.
Yeah,
amazing.
They are. They are. That's a really interesting question to answer, because I think there could be a person out there that could be able to play the game at the level that these guys are doing it. I think it, but I don't think it's going to be about that. I think it's going to be about being a woman, like Jackie Robinson was playing back there, and you know, kind of like paving the way for all these people that came after him. I think it's going to have to be a very, very special person, not necessarily on skill level, but here and here, to be able to withstand all that, you know, all that that it would have, you know, that person will have to take to be the first. But I'm hopeful that there's one day that could happen, though. Absolutely.
Any concerts coming up? Anything that we should all be aware of? Oh,
yes.
Now we're talking. You gotta
give me a zoom. Give me a zoom. All right. So we have October 6th at Peekskill. Anybody from Westchester here?
Of course.
At the Paramount Theater.
By the way, if you haven't been up to Peekskill, they've done an amazing job up there.
Yeah, they
Very
are
old
doing a
school,
great job.
The whole town. This theater is awesome. Really
and
cool.
October 12th, Pace University, the Schimmel Center, right? Is that correct? We're going to play with my big band there, 9-piece band. We're going to do my originals and a set with cover tunes with a great vocalist. I think is it Dan Orlando is going to play? Or
We'll put a link underneath this video.
Tommy
by the
Bowles,
way.
yeah.
If you're watching this later, we'll put a link underneath this video of where these two places are. And also, you're playing this weekend, no?
What are we doing this? Oh, that's right. We are, yeah, we're going to, well,
Steve,
we're going to
thank God I'm
Syracuse.
here.
We're going to Syracuse, New York, to have an event with Steiner Sports. And then we're going to top it off on Saturday with a concert at the Clayton Jazz Festival in New York at the Opera House in Clayton, New York.
That's cool.
Bordering Canada there.
Bernie51.com if you want to actually check out the schedule on the road. But there's constantly gigs coming up. I like to go and see them play.
Yeah,
listen,
cool
enjoy tonight. And listen, from Yankee Premium, they really appreciate your business. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Have fun tonight. All the guys back there, thank them. They do a great job.
Thank you.
And we'll see you, hopefully, later in the season, as in playoff time, right? Take care, everybody.